and this is just a model that kind of identifies what we're trying to accomplish, all the different ways you can interact with Goodwill online, you can reach us through a different medium, so that no matter where you switch through, how you enter, how you first come in contact with us, there's another way to engage Goodwill, and there's another way for us to engage you, or the reader of our blog, or the visitor to our Facebook page, or the viewer of our virtual fashion show. There are numerous ways that people can get involved with Goodwill, and the campaign has proven tremendously successful for us. It's generated a significant amount of earned media for Goodwill, millions of dollars of earned media since we launched the campaign, because I think the media has bought into what we like to believe is kind of a unique concept for what is in essence a used goods store. You can move on to the next slide. As you can see by this, we've got a very dedicated readership to our blog. While we have visitors from all 50 states and over 100 countries, the reality is that we're a local Goodwill agency in the greater Washington, D.C. area, so we're much more focused on the web metrics as it relates to local visitors. And the good news is that over 35% of our visitors are local as well. However, for our eBay stores, our online e-commerce sites, we don't care where they're coming from. We'll sell them merchandise no matter where they are. We have a blog retention rate of over 60%, and the typical average is about 40%, so we're doing very well there. And as you can see by the long list of media that have covered it, it's generated tremendous visibility for us and really helped transform how people view shopping at Goodwill and donating to Goodwill. And the nature of what it is that we do for the community, because while we're trying to drive traffic into our retail stores, we want people to understand what our overall mission is as well, so that we can turn them into long-term contributors. And best, mission awareness. We're impacting an untapped audience for us, and we're trying to get them more engaged in what it is that Goodwill does and create more of a sense of urgency for Goodwill's mission. And in today's tough economic times, our mission has taken on a whole new level of importance, because there are so many people that are out of work and so many people that need job training in order to support themselves and their families. So while we might address directly fashion in our blog and through some of our social networking sites, indirectly we're educating these consumers and supporters of Goodwill's important mission.
Brendan, that was just impressive. And I, like everybody else on this, I'm going to hang up with you guys. I'm going to go look at your blog. And become a follower immediately. Our last panelist is Luke Guthrie, who's the Vice President of Development for Epiphany Productions, which is our sister company here at Comitatus. Luke has been a fundraising professional for 13 years with a broad understanding of philanthropy, which I know you're all wondering whether I could say that word from the beginning of this, fund development, grant preparation, program development, and management. Luke has raised charitable funds and developed projects for nonprofits at local, state, and national levels. Prior to Epiphany, Luke served as the Director of Major Gifts for the Washington Humane Society, overseeing the organization's first capital campaign. And he'll share today some fundraising trends, as well as some simple tips for what nonprofits can do better to reach donors. So go ahead, Luke.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of this impressive panel. As Julie said, I would like to give some brief data with respect to some fundraising trends as a fundraiser here in the National Capital area. For the better part of the past 12 to 15 months, most fundraising professionals have been really keenly aware of the impact of the global economic recession. Throughout this duration, charitable fund development has become increasingly hard as economic growth and philanthropic budgets continue to contract. Study released very recently by the Giving USA Foundation validated what most of us really knew was going on in 2008. In the United States last year, charitable giving fell in aggregate by nearly 6%. This represents the largest one-year decline in nearly 2 generations. Encompassed within this figure is a decline of 8% for corporate donations, more than 6% for individual donations, and nearly 1% for foundation giving. Most experts do agree that in 2009, while we're halfway through when the data is all said and done at the end of this year, 2009 will continue to be a very difficult year with respect to charitable fundraising. In the first quarter alone of this year, American households lost an aggregate total of more than $1.3 trillion of net worth. So the challenge is clearly there. But it is not all doom and gloom. At the macro level, charitable giving remains relatively strong. When you look at the data, As a percentage of the nation's GDP or gross domestic product, philanthropy accounts for approximately 2.2%. This is in accordance to projections that were made prior to the economic meltdown. So data shows us that philanthropy is still strong and has a place in the economy. Next slide, please. Okay, the two challenges I wanted to highlight with respect to fundraising, specifically here in the National Capital Area, is the impact of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's takeover by the federal government last September, and the dramatic effect that the recession and subsequent government involvement has had on fundraising within specific industrial sectors. Nonprofits throughout the region here in Washington, D.C. area have long relied on the two locally based mortgage giants, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, to serve as consistent and prominent donors to most charitable causes. However, since 2006, Fannie and Freddie have reduced their charitable giving by greater than 40%, while still collectively contributing $47 million in total to the region's nonprofits. They continue to sharpen their focus on supporting housing-related issues solely, leaving many other nonprofits and other service areas without that core funding that has been depended upon for a number of years. In addition, the future of Fannie and Freddie, a lot is still in flux as their charitable involvement still has to be negotiated in total with their federal regulators. So a lot remains to be seen with respect to how their charitable giving will play out in the coming year to 5 years. And secondly, as the depth of the recession has become apparent, beginning most notably last summer, specific industrial sectors that we work with that have long been leaders in charitable giving have been hit extremely hard. Banking and financial services, for example, insurance, manufacturing, specifically automotive manufacturing, and travel and tourism, to name a few, have really contracted their charitable giving. The current economic climate is forcing nonprofits that have depended on corporations within these sectors to develop strategies and mechanisms to engage new donors in new and innovative ways. Next slide, please.